This is WRUULP, Savannah 7.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.
Welcome to Art on the Air with your hosts David Laughlin and Rob Hessler. This program is an hour-long interview show dedicated to the visual arts in Savannah and the surrounding area. Each episode will feature a single guest in conversation about their philosophy, practice, and current projects, as well as commentary on the state of the visual arts in our community. The end of each show will be devoted to discussion of the week's upcoming visual arts events. Now I'd like to introduce my co-host here, David Laughlin. How you doing today, David?
Hey, Rob. Good to see you. It's a beautiful day out today. Welcome, everybody, to WRUU.
It's nice and chilly out there. Good day for us art makers to be inside making artwork.
Bracing is the right word. I always like that one.
Especially when the wind blows.
Yeah. Like I got that from Teddy Roosevelt. It's bracing. If he could stand it, so could I.
Well, I know our listeners really love to hear the sound of our voices, but why don't we go ahead and introduce our guest now? This week, we're going to be speaking with Alexis Javier Perez. Alexis Javier, or AJ, is a freelance artist, muralist, and music producer who's been residing in Savannah, Georgia for the past 17 years. He received a BFA in fashion from SCAD in 2006. Between 2005 and the present date, AJ's been an active spirit in the creative world, working as a freelance artist. He curated and co-curated, as well as participated in over 24 art exhibitions, open mics, installation shows, and fashion events. It is approaching 3 years now since he partnered with two friends to open Sulfur Studios in the Starland district of downtown Savannah, a creative space that rents out 24-plus studios, a gallery, and an additional event space. His roles include gallery assistant, consultant, art handler, special events director, and coordinator. AJ also co-founded and is an organizer with Emergent Savannah, a group of volunteers that work to build community through conversations and alternative practices. That was a lot to say there, AJ, but welcome to the show.
Thank you, gentlemen, for having me. List. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, of course, with all of that you got going on there, that's the reason why we reached out to you. Of course, we not only want to talk today about your art, but we want to talk a little bit about your activism and your role in art here in Savannah. But why don't we kind of take a step a little bit further back, and let's get a little bit into your history. I did do a little bit of research about you and your background, and I also kind of found it, when I first saw your work, it was painting, which we do have some works up on the Art on the Air Facebook page if you'd like to take a little bit of a look at AJ's work while we're talking here. But your degree is in fashion, so why don't we talk a little bit about how you got into fashion and the transition from fashion to fine arts as you're doing today?
Well, it started, I was at SCAD, and I came to Savannah to SCAD for painting. Upon taking 3 or 4 courses in the painting department and the painting program, I just had this realization to myself, and it was my own decision, that, I felt like I did not need a degree to be a painter. And at the time, I was doing a lot of illustrations for a friend who was in fashion, and my love for clothing and for the fashion industry, especially at the time, it kind of allowed me to find this fusion between, drawing people and drawing the figure, and also drawing like clothing. And so that was my reasoning for leaving the painting department and going into the fashion program.
Well, so what is it about fashion specifically that you find so compelling?
It is how much it affects our decision making, our livelihood. We make that decision every day. What am I going to wear today? How am I going to present myself? A lot of people feel as though first impressions are a big thing, and so when you walk in the room, how do you look? It's something that's very important to a lot of people. And at the time, especially, I was definitely more heavily involved or more interested, and not that I still have an interest in it, but my efforts are currently not as focused on who's wearing what. I've definitely have shifted over the years. I've shifted my energy into other fields.
So what you're saying is you don't have time to squeeze a lot of fashion in between all these other ventures that you've got going on right now.
Unfortunately, it's become a difficult thing. I did, however, I've linked up with another artist and local artist here in town, who's a fibers designer, and we've started to put some sketches and ideas together. I've designed probably about 6 looks now, 6 looks for a series of garments, and she's developed samples out of knitwear, so it'd be a knitwear collection and be knits for men and women, and the idea is that it would be interchangeable, that we're calling it coded, and so some of these pieces could be worn by men and women. I think that it just kind of speaks to somewhat of the shift that's going on now in our generation, especially the newer generation, where there's a lot of this back and forth between male and female identity and gender roles, and so we were trying to
a lot of the blurring of the lines.
Yes, a lot of blurring of the lines.
Now, did you say coded or coded?
Coded, as
Okay.
in like Code for America.
Okay.
Which is it's going on tonight, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Coded, yes.
Because it's like from the ground up. If you're starting with the textile and the fiber, you're doing it completely from the ground. You're, aside from shearing the sheep yourself or whatever you have to do, it sounds like you're really starting from the ground up. Do we have any? Do you have any samples you could tell us where to find, or are you ready?
No,
for
none
You're not
none
ready
to
for
find.
that.
Yeah,
It's
and
a
it's
work
not
in
ready to be.
progress.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
Okay,
and
that's
that's I had this one of about 3 projects that are a work in progress that I've been developing with other artists in town, and,
Right.
and just kind of trying to fine tune the overall message that we're
You
trying to
just
say with
always got something going.
Always,
That's
yes.
good. That's really great.
I feel just being open to possibilities is a part of my philosophy.
It just keeps snowballing from there.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse.
If you're
Some
willing
things
to
sound
try
great.
Other mediums, it's fantastic.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Go.
Well, you're listening to Art on the Air on WRUU LP Savannah Soundings, and we're talking with AJ Perez right now. We've been talking a little bit about his fashion things, but let's take a step back to the painting and the sculptural work, because I did get a chance to see the collaborative sculpture that you put together at Sulfur Studios, and for those of you who'd like to take a look at it again, I refer you to the Art on the Air Facebook page, where AJ has provided us with an image of this very large sculpture. So let's talk a little bit about that. So how did that come together? What's sort of, I think, relates to your fashion is that's a collaborative piece. So
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about that. How did that piece come together? How did the collaboration work?
Absolutely, yes. That was a really exciting project. That project, which was called Brainstorm Rising, stemmed from a project called Brainstorm, which was done last year between, Troy Wanzel and myself. Kind of co-facilitated a community call for this installation, and Troy Wanzel provided all of these great 1/4-inch plywood panels for people to paint on, write on, draw on. It was a very vague ask for participation. We asked people who didn't consider themselves artists to come in and join in, even on the conversation of what could be, what possibilities could occur from mixing and matching all these different voices and these different styles and images, and how we could put them together into a sculptural project. And so we did that last year, and it was a great a successful event turnout, and we decided that we wanted to keep it going. Troy, has also been in Savannah a very long time, and we had the discussion about things, kind of not being around often, or not being consistent. So it was like, how can we keep the momentum going of this project and keep it going as a bi-yearly or yearly thing? And so after one attempt in the early spring to redo the project, it didn't work out. We revisited again as it was like a 1 year later thing, and this time, instead of making it a call to the community, we decided that, hey, let's bring in another artist who I reached out to, another young painter, Emil Fu, who rents with us at Sulfur Studios, and we've collaborated on a few other things before. So I felt as though with his new energy and not even, and also his absence from last year's project, he would come in with some fresh perspective. And so Troy suggested that he's like, hey, you guys, tackle this alone, and we'll just use all the same material from last year. So we took all the same panels from last year, and we decided that we were going to address the columns in the space, the center of the space, and how were we going to manipulate the space in a way that would, and hopefully, allow for the audience as they entered the room to forget that there were columns in the room, and
Right.
also to really feel as though they entered a whole new gallery setting, because we've had so many shows at Sulfur. A lot of artists and curators have treated the space in different ways in regards to the columns. They're a fixed, entity, in there.
Parameters to work with.
Right, exactly. And so you have these two columns that, invisibly, they create a wall. Even without there being like a literal physical wall there.
They can either coat them with mirrors. I start thinking about things like this
Right.
away, or cloth, or part of a Arabian tent.
Right. Yeah, no, that's...
And then in a more traditional sense, you can
Yeah.
hang works on it, or which
Correct.
I think I've seen you guys do that before.
Yeah,
stuff in there.
we've done that. Others have done that who rented the space from us, and so that was like our goal, was to really try to reshape that space, working around these columns. And it just so happened that after 3 months of conversations between Emil, Troy, and myself, we had a couple loose ideas of what it would physically look like, but we went in with no final, this is what it's going to be.
It was an organic process.
It was a very organic process, and we kind of dealt with and hashed out a lot of the challenges right there in the space as we were working towards it. And I think
I love doing that.
it was really amazing.
I really do.
Yes, it was. I wish we to capture that in a way for like the process of that for others to see or experience. I don't know how one can do
for
that,
one,
but
video or pictures as you go along helps for
True.
one thing. That's always fun to watch. But
It's so funny. You guys are like, "Oh, I love this. I love this," and I'm like, I'm horrified by this as an artist because I'm so rigid in my routine. I mean, I am much more. I'm very organized. I'm very clean. I think of. I have to place my artwork as a profession where I'm working kind of 9 to 5. Well, it's not exactly 9 to 5. It doesn't really end up working out like that, but I have to think of it very much like that. So, not to say that there isn't some organic component of ideas in the way that they move through a
Growth and
series or through
creativity.
works, yes.
Right.
But the actual creation of the artwork is, well, I've got an exhibition. That exhibition opens on so-and-so day.
Mm-hmm.
They have an expectation of so-and-so amount of works, and so I do that, and I schedule everything out, and I show up every day, and I just work.
and,
And you're like, oh, well, we're just
you
thinking
do.
about this, and it's just such a different way of thinking about things.
you do everything that morning of the show just to make it really spontaneous.
I'm sure my galleries would be super psyched about that.
Surprise. Oh, but there are the technology now. You have, and I've worked with these. You can actually make the room. You can do the 3D version of the room before you do anything. So everything's laid out. It would be if you want to do it that way.
right.
It helps sometimes, especially if you're dealing with a group.
It
projects,
does, and-
because I like to make sure everybody knows what's going on.
Right, and it helps, especially if you're working in a larger group, where there is somewhat some of these kind of, I want to say guidelines, but almost like a template. So everybody could kind of refer back to as like, okay, this is what I
The
need to be working
basic
on.
structure
Correct, yeah,
to
and
build off of.
yeah,
Right.
Well, and I think that one great advantage, and I think that you're taking advantage of it right now, is that you can work in the same space that you are exhibiting in. So your process is taking place directly surrounded by where you're going to show the work, being the fact that you are one of the co-founders and owners of Sulfur Studios, and you've got that space, and so you're in it all the time, and you can really be integrating yourself with your space.
Yeah, it definitely made a huge difference, because we were able to go down there often and sit in the space and have these conversations and look at it from different perspectives, different angles, and keep asking ourselves, these questions over and over again to really, get down to like the core of what we were trying to express. What was our message in this project. And so I'm grateful that I'm in the position that I am in, and to have access to a space like this, it makes a world of a difference for sure. And
it's a toy box.
It really is.
Let's go have fun here,
right? And then
you make beautiful things.
And you have all these other energies, these other people in the space that are working on their crafts, their art, and their and within their respective mediums, and it's this constant inspiration around, and you're having small conversations with people about what they're doing.
That's what I like about Sulfur. It is a collective, and there are, you can tell there are dynamics of different people that are projecting their own in there that all seem to work.
Right.
That's what's really beautiful for me. It's very rare, It's like the Beatles or something.
Sulfur Studios is the Beatles. You hear that? That is a serious compliment.
Okay, maybe it's a little too strong. But I was going for an analogy, and that was the first one I came up with. So.
Well, okay, you're here listening.
I didn't say Monty Python.
That
would be
pretty
so
cool.
bad.
There could be a little bit of that.
Okay.
You're listening to Art on the Air on WRUU 107.5 FM Savannah Soundings, and we're here talking with AJ Perez, who is an artist and activist here in town. And let's talk a little bit more about, let's dovetail a little bit further into this collaborative conversation that we've been having, because obviously since you've been, as you mentioned, in Sulfur Studios, and that's been such a big part of your life over the last couple of years, obviously, and you are surrounded by all these artists. Has collaborative work begun to take more of an active role in your life? I mean, is that something that you enjoy doing, and how does that impact your own personal work, your own personal projects?
It has taken a not that it has taken more of a serious role in my life, because I've always been a collaborative in nature, and even while being in SCAD, in college, that a lot of the projects or shows that I was either putting together or co-creating, it was with others, and we. Oftentimes we're trying to be as inclusive as possible with with our peers, including different genres or different medium into our show. So we would periodically put together these collaborative shows where we would have paintings on the wall and clothes, and there'd be a spoken word or poetry aspect of it. Even one show we did, we had there was a pretty prominent breakdancer crew in town, and we had them come out and perform as well,
Very nice.
And get involved into the scene. So there was all these different elements, and I would say, for a long time, it's always been about creating an experience, and how do we best do that?
But again, you're not going for just let's do a multi-sensory experience. It does have to happen organically, and some elements, again, you have to wait for the right time. It's fair. I understand how difficult that is to explain.
There's
but
a lot of patience.
But it's just a matter of getting. It's like herding cats sometimes, but it's just a matter of getting the people together to have a focus.
Right.
And if you give them a focus and the parameters, sometimes some great things happen, and some great things have happened over there. So
what I'm kind of hearing from you is that. So the space is sort of a reflection of your philosophy anyway, and then being in the space now that it's been created, it further sort of pushes that idea of doing collaborative work. So you're a collaborator, you create a space which invokes collaboration, and then you're in that space which makes you collaborate even more as time goes on.
Yeah, pretty much. And now I don't have to really go out as much and maybe fish for other
Right.
other energy, other people out there who are trying to do
Well,
things.
now you're established.
Now it's
Okay.
now I feel more established. I'm in a place where people know that we could reach out to Sulfur, or we could reach out to AJ because we know he's he does this or he does that, and he's helped here or helped there, and so I feel like projects are kind of coming to me now as well, and which is amazing. And because we have this space, I have really had the opportunity to then bring these ideas to our crew at Sulfur and be like, hey, Pat Gunn, who's with the Saltwater Gullah Geechee Saltwater Players, reached out to, or we were having a conversation, and they're doing this great project, which they're trying to raise awareness for. A lot of the freed slaves which happened here in Savannah, Georgia, on December 21st of 1863. So they're going on this campaign at the end of this week into next week to raise awareness about this, and they received I forget how many. It was like thousands of images of these abolitionists and these freed slaves
From that time,
and they're going to be putting these images on display at the Mount Zion Church, at the Beach Institute. Leading up to Thursday night, December 21st, so it's like kind of an anniversary. It'll be the Jubilee Freedom Day Festival. Upon having this conversation with her, and I was just taken aback by this, and to hear her speak more about it in detail of how the importance of Savannah within that whole movement. I just was like, Pat, I would love to show some of these images. Like, what can we do to make it happen? I know it's short notice, but she was all about it. So I figured out a way how we, Sulfur and Emergent Savannah, can get involved into help promoting and presenting these images and the story, our story, at Sulfur Studios. So next Tuesday night, we're going to be doing that at Sulfur. Getting the flyer and stuff out as soon as possible. Hopefully it'll be out in the next day or so.
Okay, hold on. Say again when that's happening.
It's going to be Tuesday night, December 19th. This is the next Tuesday, and it's from between 6 to 9 p.m. at Sulfur Studios in the gallery downstairs. And there will be images and bios
I would
of
love to see that.
abolitionists and freed slaves from that time. And Pat Gunn, as well as some others, will be performing. There'll be a small spoken word portion of it. Pat and his name's Eric Saul, who's coming down from Virginia, who's bringing a lot of these images down. He's there. We're going to be speaking and giving an introduction and kind of like a brief little history of this whole thing. And it's just, again, being in that position, being at Sulfur,
unique opportunity,
networking, right? And it's
so great.
Trying to find how to find these connections that will, I think, kind of help not just the creative community, but just our general Savannah community, and with our knowledge of who we are, our identity, and not just Savannah's identity, but just us as humans, as individuals, and knowing Savannah's history. I feel like that's very important, and to know
how
that
time and location has influenced what.
Correct,
we are now.
and it could maybe bring more of a broader perspective or hone in that perspective of why we're in the times we're in now,
Right.
and why is Savannah dealing with these things in Savannah's way, and I feel like this project, this campaign that Pat Gunn and that they're promoting is something that will
expand that thought,
yeah,
as well as to allow people who don't think about it too.
Right.
That's the great thing about history, though.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's always, especially when you find something new like that, it's exciting. I think I've really got to see this.
Yeah, it had the hairs on my
it
back
gets
and
your
arms
attention
really
right away,
we're standing up, and it was just a big moment.
I think we can do something here.
Right, right. I was like, let me figure it out. So the gears were turning in my head, and how do we make this work?
Well, and that's a great opportunity for them as well, in that Sulfur Studios has been well established now, and you get a certain segment of the population in Savannah that come to events that happen there that might not go to might not visit Mount Zion Church and see what's happening there.
Right.
So it is an opportunity to maybe open the dialogue to a wider range of people than they might not have gotten either. So it's sort of a mutually beneficial arrangement between you, and of course you get to do something really incredibly cool and amazing like that.
You know, yeah, I'm just very excited about it.
Yeah.
I think it'll speak on varying levels to people in different ways. But I think that the overall their message, which is, you know, just what does freedom mean to you? That's kind of like what they're campaigning this thing behind, and I think it's a great question. And in regards to the images and the subject matter, I feel like
When you put it in that context,
right.
Yeah, you can go pretty deep with that.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we're hoping for some great conversation and networking that evening, and, you know, getting people to meet new people, and again back to what you were just saying, Rob. You know, just that it will bring in another audience as well. So I feel like there'll be a pretty diverse room of Savannah.
Well, switching gears a little bit, this event sounds incredible, but you have your hands in so many different activities now, and we're getting a little bit close to a break here, so I want to switch gears to music,
Yes.
which you're also very much involved in music. In fact, one of the first times that you and I met, we talked about a collaborative project that you were working on with an artist who I very much enjoy, Clay Hodges, a local hip-hop artist. He's one of my favorites in town. And so why don't you talk a little bit about that? So you're working on some musical projects as well.
Yes. I've been producing music since about 2006, 2007, and just kind of, you know, in my own little bubble. I've always had a knack for sound and ear, and especially within film and video commercials, like really at an early age, kind of aware of how the music and the sound altered or manipulated or dictated like your emotional attachment or how it influenced your response, right? And so I probably not till after college, which I almost went into the sound design program at SCAD. I was kind of back and forth between that and fashion for a couple quarters. But after I graduated, I got a little more serious in it, and been just developing my sound and exploring, experimenting as much as possible. And then I started to collaborate with some people probably in about 2009, 2010 is when I actually started to bring in vocalists to work with. I was a little more comfortable sharing my music because for whatever reason, that's like it was the one creative venture of mine or outlet that I had some insecurity behind. Just not sure like how people would respond to it. And so then I started working with a gentleman by the name of Fuji, and our relationship grew, and he really helped, kind of bring in other artists into the mix. And so collaborating with the likes of Clay Hodges, with Elena Valor, Mig Sun Daddy. I've produced one of his first singles off of his album Son of a Gun, and he made a music video for, which was amazing to see. It was kind of like a big confidence booster. Like, hey, you look at your music, your music now with visuals put to it, and it's out there in the world, and seeing reading those responses from people too, which was all right. Keep going with this, and so really just been focusing on my sound and trying to curate to the best I can. And so I've been working with Clay Hodges, but also started working with Matt Duplessis, who goes by Clandestiny, and also has another group or band called Shines of the Sun, and a visual artist he's also a musician too, but Frank Unger. And so we've started collaborating and trying to work on a music, sound, and visual projection type of multimedia project. And so this is something we've been doing this off and on for about 4 months. We get together maybe like twice a month, and it's all impromptu on the spot. Matt and I make the music live right there on the spot, and Frank does a live, uses a webcam and captures what's going on, and then projects that and manipulates it live. So we're developing this organically grown
video
improv
jazz.
I love that.
Jazz.
Yes, video jazz.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
I wonder if that's
So we've got a
already taken.
title now.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, look, I think that we're up on the break now, so we're going to do a couple of quick announcements, but then after that we're going to listen to one of AJ's compositions, and this particular one is a solo project, right?
Yes.
This song we're going to listen to, Shadows and Codes. So after a couple of brief announcements, let's go ahead and listen to one of AJ's songs here. We'll be right back with Art on the Air.
This is WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.
If you enjoy our programming on WRUU-LP, please support the station with a donation. As an individual, you can give any amount, become a basic station member, or become a serious fan of the station. To check out membership rates and to donate to the station, go to www.wruu.org/individual and select to donate monthly or subscribe to an annual membership. Again, to donate to the station, go to www.wruu.org/individual and select to donate monthly or subscribe to an annual membership. Thank you for listening to and supporting WRUU-LP.
The Creative Coast presents Geekend, a 2-day conference featuring speakers from technology, design, engineering, innovation industry, and more, on February 2nd and 3rd at various venues in Savannah. Session topics include startups, innovative business thinking, video game development, and augmented and virtual reality technologies. More information is available at geek-end.com.
It's really something that was fantastic. You could never imagine this. But this is unbelievable.
Welcome back to Art on the Air with your hosts David Laughlin and Rob Hessler. We're here talking with AJ Perez today about his multitudes of projects that he's got going on. And we've just listened to a musical composition that he put together called Shadows and Codes. And we want to talk a little bit about that on the air because we were discussing what was going on in that sample while it was playing, and it is a fascinating bit of history. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I'll do my best. Let's see. It was a sample that I came across just searching for some dialogue between astronauts and ground control, and it's something that on this specific album I'm working on called Space Time, and so I wanted there to be this relationship between the ambient kind of spacey music with also maybe some of our historical space endeavors. So this was dialogue from, and I apologize for not remembering the name of the astronaut, but I believe it was in the Apollo 11 or 12, and they were up in space, and they had a sighting apparently of what could have been a UFO or some sort of extraterrestrial
On the moon.
On the moon, yes, on the moon, and this is their kind of like, hey, ground control, there's this thing, and not sure what it is, but we wanted to let you know. And the response that they got was interesting because it was like, oh, we already know about that. Like, you guys turn around, go away. And as they tried to further explain, like, well, you really need to see this, or, there's more to this. And they wanted to explain more, but pretty much kind of like cut communication.
Code 32.
Yeah.
Code 32.
Bravo Tango, Bravo Tango,
off.
run,
Off.
leave. Yeah, please.
Do not talk to media.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I found that really interesting, and I wanted that to incorporate that into the sound, into the music.
Well, that's very
amazing.
interesting. Yeah,
I've never heard that.
I've never heard of that either.
Now I'm going to have to look it up.
Yeah, YouTube is a wonderful thing.
Yes, isn't it though?
It can be.
Well, you are listening to Art on the Air on WRUU 107.5 FM, and we are a visual arts show, though. So that being said, I know as an artist myself, music is a huge influence on what I'm doing when I'm in the studio working on my drawings and other art projects. So not only with the fact that you're making music, but how does music influence what you're doing with your visual arts?
Oh, it has a huge impact for sure. Music I think speaks on another language that is on this level of like frequency of wavelengths, vibrations, and we are energy conductors, our bodies, our spirits, and so it's no coincidence that certain sounds, certain beats, certain frequencies,
vibrations,
they move people, and you see this all the time, and we all experience it in different ways, and so having music being played while working is important to me. Every once in a while, I will try to work in silence just to kind of switch it up a little bit. But it really does. It kind of it's like this driving rhythm, to keep going. And so when I'm creating music, in a way, for me, it's almost like it's kind of therapeutic. It's a self exploration after the day of going through projects and answering emails and conversations and all of the your daily grind. I can throw on my headphones and get in my own world and zone and kind of like put all of this stuff into the music and have this release in a way. And so it is. I think that's why a lot of my music does tend to be a little more relaxed, kind of calming, because it's, I guess, kind of a way for me to deal with anxiety. And
yeah, but see, that's so funny. You're saying that your music is relaxing and calming, but we were just talking about the subject matter behind it. So maybe it's leaking out a little bit. That anxiety or stress of your day that you're talking about is leaking out into the music.
It was offering an overview of what could have been a stressful situation, and so you have to maintain your chill while you're having an overview of aliens on the moon. And at least you have at least to give you some perspective of what could be tumult and trouble. Someone said one of the best ones I heard was that art decorates space and music decorates time. So that works. But I'm sure, I'm sure you've got such an eclectic taste, though.
Yeah, I listen to everything,
especially if you're mixing.
Right.
And all, and then you find just a few little bits that work together, say some drum beat from Mali that works with accordion music from France, and just that's what's really exciting when you can bring those together.
Yeah.
It's truly a multimedia experience when you do that. It's great. I just, we'll be putting up music of his and Sulfur Studios of the artwork there too.
And let's actually talk a little bit more about sort of Sulfur Studios and the art community in Savannah a little bit more as well, because obviously Sulfur Studios has become a huge part of what I consider, and I think David would agree with me, a burgeoning art scene in Savannah, where one of the reasons why we wanted to do this show is we were really feeling like something is happening here, something that needs to be looked at.
Right.
Actually, I was thinking while he was talking earlier about what he's doing there, that's what we had the idea to do the show, because it seems to bring a lot of the artists of the community together, and we'll have a spot for that too. So we're in the same valley or mountain, however you want to say it.
Right.
Well,
on the same plateau.
We were talking on last week's episode. We had artist XL Kiefer, and I know that you've worked with her. In fact, I think you curated her exhibition that she currently has up at In Vino Veritas.
Correct. Right.
And one of the things that we sort of came to an agreement on is that over the last 5 years, things have really changed. There has been, especially in the Starland District, I think that there's become a place for contemporary art that's experimental and trying things that are maybe a little bit different than Savannah is used to. And I'm sort of curious as to what your observations of that process have been, given that you've kind of played a central role in making that happen with your role at Sulfur Studios, and also as a part of Emergent Savannah.
Yeah, I believe that there has been this change. There's just been a shift, and the amount of, well, I'm gonna say the amount, but there are a lot of creatives in this town, and there have been for many years, largely due to SCAD. But I am sensing more so now in my observations over the years that there are also other creatives who are just moving here, who are coming here to live here and work here.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, for varying reasons.
Yes.
And I think it does go back to this sense of that something is burgeoning, something's bubbling, and even back in like 2006, 2007, I would have some conversations like this with other artists and creatives who were on the verge of, leaving Savannah or in that place, which a lot of us I know have been in and probably currently still are, of like whether or not I should stay or go. And it's been like this slow bubble, like the pots on the stove, and the heat got turned up a little bit more, and so now I feel as though that, okay, it's starting to bubble, and are we going to maybe turn it down a little bit, or is it just going to stay on high
I
and
say
start
no.
overflowing? Because we're on that point of like where it almost feels like, it's overflowing, and
We need a bigger pot.
we need a bigger pot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's so many shows now, which is amazing. There's so many shows going on. There's so much happening, and before, I remember people were just like, oh, there's not, what are we gonna do this weekend, or what's there to go?
Oh, that's not the problem at all.
No, not at all. Now it's like, okay, I can't make all of these shows tonight. Let me pick the top 3 because I want to at least spend some substantial time in each one. So it's been pretty amazing to witness this and also be involved in a part of it in varying ways too. I've personally just have had a drive to just keep working and keep creating things and so I think that there are other people who have that drive now. There's a lot more of us, and so which is amazing to see and feel.
Well, do you feel that, there's less transients that come through. There was a lot of people who would stay for a few years and then leave, and so there's less of that. And it's also, on the other side, also, like you said, attracting more. This Savannah is actually attracting more people to come here for that reason.
Right.
Because the community is getting a little bigger voice and more widely known, which is fantastic.
I know from my perspective, too, something that's really appealing about Savannah is that there's 2 things, is that the established art communities here, or art institutions, like the Telfair Museum, for example, and they've started their Art 912 program, and they're reaching out to bring in local artists and support them rather than just, let's bring in all the outside artists. So there's that. I'm thinking right now of Lisa Watson's exhibition Avantgardia, which is up in I haven't actually had a chance to see it, but she's one of my favorites, and I can't wait
awesome.
to see that exhibit. And then secondly, that there is also an activist spirit here in Savannah beyond. You've got Emergent Savannah, but I've worked with and spoken with people from Smart Growth Savannah, and Art Rise Savannah has done obviously a ton, ARC Savannah, all these various organizations that are doing things around town. And for me, I don't see much of a disconnect between art and activism. And I see that in your work and what you're doing as well. And I think that's, you know how it is. When you start getting involved in the community, it's really hard to leave because you care.
Exactly. Yes.
You're
Indeed.
invested emotionally.
Right. As many times it may happen in a week where I'm like, oh my God, I think it's time to go. Like, I need a break. I need to get out of here. No, there's always something or someone or a group that it's just, it kind of reinstills that energy, or, reinvigorates. Like, you got to just keep going. We have to keep going. Because, I think that the pace that collectively that we're moving at, if to kind of stay with your at the forefront of all that, you have to be just as active, and so I have no intentions of stopping anytime soon.
We're glad to hear that.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep going, and I'm just gonna keep going, and as long as there are other people who are still, having that energy, want to keep pushing forward too, because it definitely is going to take, takes a village, right, to raise the kid. So
absolutely,
we're working together, and I feel like, as much as I can do to make those connections and bring people together to really kind of help the greater cause, of finding a place for all of us to feel welcomed, to feel at home, to feel as though we have pride and joy of our
and we have
city.
A voice, and we have a voice,
right?
Yeah.
And because we all do, and so of being able to express that in varying ways, and surrounding ourselves with others who are open to listening, because that's another challenge too. It's like finding people that will actually listen.
Yeah,
I'm
for
sorry,
sure.
what did you say?
Exactly.
You're listening to Art on the Air on WRUU LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM. We're also streaming live at WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. We're coming to the last 8 or so minutes of our time here with our guest, AJ Perez, who is an artist and activist here in Savannah. And David is scrambling around, I think, at the moment for some.
we're good.
You've got some questions, I think.
I have a few questions.
We have some. We're going to change
yeah,
We're going to change things up.
I
from
have questions for
from
you.
our
Right,
serious.
hopefully I'll have some answers.
And not only that, to that end, we also have a Christmas gift for you, an early holiday gift, anyway, that I just fell into this. This is a children's book called A is for Activist.
This is wonderful.
I just thought
You didn't know you were getting
It's
gifts
not-
today, right?
and
amazing.
it's
I
got
didn't know
good
this either.
reviews from Naomi Klein and others, and it's amazing. I'll just read you a sample. H is for healthy food. A human right. Honeydew, jicama, I know how to pronounce that. Nature's delight. Hummus, hot dogs, Havarti cheese, hot dogs, yes, healthy hot dogs, please, and pizza. I'm just adding that.
Okay.
But that's me.
That didn't say pizza in there, did it?
I'm
That's not
just
it.
adding that. I'm editing that. But there.
David, thank you so much for
But,
this.
yeah,
This
I
was
just,
very unexpected. And
Well, as in, when I saw it, I just thought we have AJ, who is so involved with the community and making it work.
I'd like to
Yeah,
make
I just
an
thought that was
announcement
great.
to all future guests, though, that you will not be
You will
receiving
not be
gifts.
receiving
Gifts,
But yes, Rob will be supplying gifts from here on out for the rest of the year. I've got mine for this year, so we're good.
Well, do you want to give us
my.
any? You got any last thoughts for us? We've got a community calendar we like to do here at the end of this episode, so I think that we are to start saying our goodbyes to you. You got any last thoughts that you'd like to give us, AJ, before you head out? I know you've got some events coming up.
yeah, we have some events coming up. We have the event on the 19th, Tuesday night, which is the one I mentioned earlier, where we will be showcasing images and bios of abolitionists, and we're collaborating with Pat Gunn and the Saltwater Gullah Players. And that's this Tuesday, December 19th. And then to the new year, we will be working with Paulita Bennett Martin, and she is campaigning for the Tybee Island Science Marine Center. She is putting together a silent auction art show that we will be hosting at Sulfur, and that is scheduled for February 9th. That will be raising money for the Tybee Island Science Marine Center in regards to raising awareness for the right whales. If a lot of you don't know that the right whales breed off of our waters here in Savannah, and there was about 17 of them that were found on shore earlier this year. So their population is, I think, around 422, if I remember correctly. And they're an endangered species, and so we are trying to raise awareness and help Paulina Bennett Martin out with that project. And other than that, Sulfur Studios will be working towards an artist in residency program, so keep your eyes and ears open for that, titled On View.
And you can find all of that information on the Sulfur Studios Facebook page, where there are often events posted. And we do our best with our Art on the Air page to do a little bit of that ourselves. We are running a little short on time. David, do you have any...
How much time do we have?
We have about 5 minutes.
Okay.
We have exactly 5 minutes, actually.
Okay, let me ask two questions.
All right.
And out of my list of questions, what's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Best piece of advice I've been given.
This is where we turn on the clock sound in the back, and you have a minute. We don't.
One of I can't say what's the best one, but one that stuck with me is that there are three sides to every story. There is person A's or group A's side. There is person B's, group B's, and then there's right down the middle, the truth.
And then there's the truth.
Absolute truth of what
Right.
happened, which one may never know. And so
Good.
that
That's
sticks
good.
around in my head.
That's
often.
good to keep in mind. That's keeping the overview and the perspective. Yeah. Okay. Some of your favorite elements of Savannah. Now I'm thinking. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. What's some of your favorite elements of Savannah?
Elements of Savannah would be the layout of the city itself.
The original.
The original layout,
Yeah.
Oglethorpe's original plan. It reflects or speaks on community, on its walkability. all the squares, it was designed for that, inclusiveness, for people to have access, and that's something that is really
and
has
for the
stuck with
fire
me.
brigades to be able to come through is what I
Yes.
recall easily enough after the fire of London. So, okay, well okay, I love this one.
This will be our last question.
If you were reincarnated, you have a choice between human, plant, or animal. What would it be?
I would go with animal because I feel as though I was already a tree. So I've already have some sort of connection
So
with the
you-
tree plant. So I would go with animal because I'm that one.
That just leads to spirit animal. I mean,
And my spirit animal,
yeah.
I would probably some
Goldfish. No.
maybe golden eagle.
Golden eagle.
I'd like to sit back and observe. So I think having that view, being able to kind of watch things.
That's a very good answer to that, as a matter of fact. I think, yeah.
Well,
So
on
I'll
that
change mine
note,
from sloth.
well, on that note, you've been listening to Art on the Air with your hosts David Laughlin and Rob Hessler on WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. We've been speaking today with AJ Perez, artist and activist, and also potentially Golden Eagle. And we're going to be leaving you now with a snippet of his song, which we played a little bit earlier, Shadows and Codes. Up next, you've got that old Savannah magic. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.